This is Ex-Con Mike, your felon in the streets. Today's video is called Why I Went to Prison. The easy answer is to say that back in March of '94, I robbed and shot someone. I did not accept a plea, so my two friends who were with me, but who were never arrested, came forward and testified at my trial. I was convicted of 5 felonies plus a second felony supplement or habitual. My charges are assault with intent to rob while armed with an added felony firearm charge, assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder with an added felony firearm charge, and possession of a short barrel shotgun. I was sentenced to 12 to 32 years flat, no good time because of the habitual for my prior drug cases. But that isn't why I went to prison. I didn't just all of a sudden decide to rob someone. My criminal life began when I was 7 years old, smoking weed, drinking, and stealing, always stealing. I had an older brother who liked to break into cars but kept getting caught, and drunk little kids make horrible lookouts. I started selling drugs early, specifically prescription drugs. I stole some birth control pills from my older brother's girlfriend and sold them on the playground as speed when I was like 10 or 11. I don't remember the age, but I remember the ass whooping my dad gave me for it. That progressed to selling my brother's Ritalin at school until one of my customers took what I sold him to the principal. I remember that ass whooping too, clearly. At 14, I got locked up in drug rehab because my parents thought I was an addict. I wasn't. And then juvie for truancy because school started for the year and I never showed up. They got a little mad about it, put me in juvie and made me go to alternative ed, which was cool. 8:15 in the morning to like 12:10 or some shit like that. I pretty much stayed on probation from 14 to 16. How I got off was my PO told me to drop clean and she would cut me loose. I tried for like 2 months to drop clean and said to hell with it, I couldn't. Shit, weed stays in your system like 3 weeks. Ain't nobody got time for that. But somehow I got it clean. Probably a mistake, but I'll take it. That was pretty fantastic, actually. Quit school right after because I didn't have time for that bullshit either. Then I remembered that school was where I sold most of my drugs, so I went back to adult ed, eventually taking 3 of the 5 GED tests. But as these things happen, I was arrested at 18 for, surprise of surprises, selling drugs. To an undercover, which is always nice. Pled use, because that's what you do when you don't want to go to prison. Well, my judge called my bluff and said, okay, but you can only go to this one rehab. It's a long-term rehab, and if you break the rules, I'll send you to prison. I'm thinking, great, that shit worked. But oh wait, this rehab doesn't have a time limit. I thought 90 days, maybe 6 months max. This place had people that were there almost 2 years and they weren't out yet. Well played, Your Honor. Well played. I got out after 20 and 1/2 months to the job I found, the place I rented, and probation. Blah, 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 too scared to get in trouble. I get off probation early due to excellent adjustment into the community. 60 days later, I was locked up for robbery and attempted murder. Why did I go to prison? Well, when you look at it laid out like that, it's obvious I was going to prison. I was nothing but a fuck up and deserved to go to prison, if you view it that way, but I don't. I look at this same list and see someone who had no hope. I see someone who watched his dad barely keep his GM job while all his uncles lost theirs. I see a kid who saw friends' parents lose their jobs and go broke, move away. I see someone who at any point before I shot that man could have been turned aside with something real for my future. At any time. It's obvious to me from looking at this that here is a kid who hated his circumstances and was looking for a way out. And as crazy as it sounds, it looks like it worked. I say all that with confidence because I never went back. The kid I say I'm seeing was me, and I never went back. The criminal justice system would have us believe that we go to prison because of some defect we have. And the substance abuse industry is there to collect those humanitarian tax dollars lockstep in agreement with law enforcement. What if the real reason we go off in the streets is that we just simply lost or never had hope for our future? And even though 99.9% of people who go in the streets go to prison or get killed, the 0.1% chance you'll be the one to make it is 0.1% chance more than you had. And what the hell are we talking about? Why I never went back to prison. This is 2 different parts. Part 1 is the philosophy that has kept me out, and part 2 is the actual things I did to complete my parole. The philosophy is simple. The government needs criminals to fill prison beds so people can have jobs. The drug game is run by the police. They either bring it in, allow it to be brought in, protect its distribution, or protect the dirty cops who are doing all of this by keeping quiet. And then they bust everyone not affiliated with their police-protected importer. Every piece of imported heroin, coke, weed, MDMA, all of it that makes it on the streets was allowed to get there. Why do I believe this? I just followed the money, just that. Who financially benefits from drugs? The police, the substance abuse industry, jails and prisons, and politicians. Everyone but us. Seems suspicious, so I went a little further and discovered this. During the 1980s, the CIA was bringing in drugs, having it sold in Los Angeles, buying weapons with the money, and shipping those weapons to South America to help some rebellion. Did you hear that? I'll put all the links in the description. The United States federal government brought cocaine into the country right at the beginning of the crack epidemic, probably started the crack epidemic, to be sold to the population in order to fund their war. And that's just cocaine. Today we have an opiate epidemic. Opiates come from the same plant that makes heroin. 80% of the world's heroin is produced in Afghanistan. The Taliban is in Afghanistan. The Taliban used to be our friends. The Taliban controls the heroin. We fight the Taliban. Taliban's heroin market share increases over the life of the war, and America's opiate epidemic begins and burns out of control. I call bullshit, and I'm out. I don't want to play. I'm not going to be this pawn in whatever this is. What did I do to help me complete parole? I got out of prison and went to a halfway house. I spent 1 week, 7 days, looking for a job that I hoped to get in a garage or some other good job like that I hoped to get. And when I didn't get a job, I went to the first job that would hire me, and that was a dishwasher. It paid me minimum wage, but it paid me. It didn't pay me by the hour, but it paid me salary. Minimum wage for 40 hours was my salary by the week pay, no matter how many hours that I worked. I look back and clearly see how I was taken advantage of in that job, but I'm glad I stayed. I didn't have any work history when I got out of prison, and I stayed on this job for a year, and that job led me to my next job. I found a third shift job in a factory. A second shift job may work for you also, depending on your situation, but for me, a third shift job was best for 2 reasons. I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. 7 days a week, which kept me out of the majority of situations because I just didn't see people. Due to my work schedule, I didn't actually have a curfew. Even though I didn't go hang out, having that rule removed felt pretty good. What else did I do? I got a cat. I lived alone. I got a cat. I got a cat because I needed a reason to come home. I needed something at home that made me know I had to come home. I can't just be gone living my life and never step in at home because I've got a living being there I got to take care of. I needed something to take care of so I wouldn't be focusing so much on my own struggles. It was hard when I came home. I'll make a video about it. It was hard. I did 13 years. I didn't know how to turn on my lights. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff out here, and it was rough. That cat kept me out of prison. That cat kept me sane, kept me focused. And dogs bark. Dogs bark and need a lot of attention or they'll turn mean. I worked too much to be a good dog owner, so I couldn't have a dog. I got a cat. It's the first one I ever owned. Cats don't bark. They're self-cleaning. They kill mice and spiders. If you get one from the pound, you will literally be saving a life. They're in jail for a certain length of time, and if they aren't adopted, they kill them. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Adopt a pet if you live alone. We need an ally at home to come home to, and there's no better friend than a pet. Thank you for watching. If you're a fellow felon and you like what I'm doing here, support my hustle by liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all my new videos. If you're a non-felon, check out my Amazon author page. You're here for a reason. Maybe you'll find something that will be helpful.